It is 10 o'clock. I call this Sawyer County admin meeting to order. Can we do roll call, Madam Clerk?
Tweet Schuman, excused. Ron Buckholtz,
Here.
Tom Duffy, Ron Kinsley,
Sure.
Dale Schleter. You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Certification of compliance with open meeting.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Number 5, the meeting agenda has been presented. Number 6, public comment. Public comment, it will be given the opportunity to address the committee. You'll have 3 minutes or less per individual. Comments be directed to the committee as a whole and not one person. And the committee cannot respond to your comments during that time. So we have one, Linda Zilmer. You got 3 minutes, Linda.
Linda Zilmer, resident of the Village of Birchwood and Edgewater property owner. My public comment here is also a repeat of some things in finance. With the way the committee meetings are set up with the county board meeting the next month, there isn't a lot of time to resolve issues. So number one, at the Land, Water and Forest Committee meeting, there was a motion to release mineral and flowage rights on sale of county or on land that has been acquired by secluded land company. And I think that should be postponed until the county investigates more what that means, especially the flowage rights, and whether the county should be receiving some sort of revenue for those rights that are being released. The second thing is I would ask when the agenda is formed or drafted for the county board meeting to consider postponing action on the 2 ordinances that were passed last night at Public Works regarding highway access, and then also giving the highway commissioner the ability to contract with towns. And then I guess the last thing I will mention here is last month I spoke to my having filed an ethics complaint. And I understand, I only heard this just a day or two ago, that I will not be allowed to participate in the ethics committee meeting. I will not be able to say anything. And so whatever discussion happens, it will be based on a very limited and I think too narrow of a response from outside attorneys. And so whatever discussion you have, I think at that committee also should include looking at expanding what conflicts of interests are, not just those narrowly defined in the attorney's opinion. And I think it speaks volumes about the process, and I did it just to see what would happen, and I guess I'm not surprised. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Linda, we have anybody else out there? Who is it? You want to introduce yourself? Go ahead.
The person identified as phone number 715-699-2894. Looks like you got your hand up.
Okay. He was going to try to get on Zoom. He told me he wasn't very good at it. Apparently he's not. So, all right, we're going to move on here. Number 7, approval of last month's minutes.
I move we approve them.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Duffy and a second by Mr. Kinsley to approve the minutes from last month's meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries to approve. Okay, number 8, Veteran Service Department report. Is Gary here? Okay. Go ahead, Gary, you're up.
Good morning. So for the Veteran Service Office in January, we had 549 phone calls, 515 letters, emails, and faxes, and 171 office visits. For the claims submitted, we had 21 disability claims submitted to date with a retroactive payment out, direct payment to the veterans of $10,550.63 for claims that were decided in the veterans' favor. As far as training, we've got Nicole, our Veterans Benefits Specialist, completed her national certification this last month. Very stellar report on that. So we are up to speed. We have a state training coming up in April, which I will put in the next month's briefing, that we're going to be out for 4.5, 5 days. It might as well be a business week. We will be out to get trained up with the state and whatever other issues might be popping up. It usually covers current changes in the law and how I guess the other counties are addressing the changes and dealing with them along with the state and the federal government in meeting the veterans' needs. Other than that, like I said, we've been very busy, very, very busy. We've got veterans. Nicole wanted to run with Valentine's Day cards for veterans that are in nursing homes and homebound, and people jumped on board pretty quick. We had 2 or 3 state legislatures posted on their websites. We've got the intermediate school children that are bringing some cards in, and they're going to start going out tomorrow to the various places just to touch base with those veterans and let them know that we do care about them and they're not forgotten. I've got a briefing. I was asked to do a briefing by one of the VA employees in Minneapolis. They said it was a small briefing, 30 minutes or less, on how best for social workers and other care facilities and hospitals to best navigate VA benefits. And they said 30 minutes or less, and it's a small group. Well, our small group, it happens to be northwestern Wisconsin right now. So anyway, so I'm busy building those slides too as I'm working through veterans claims and needs here. So we have been busy. Any questions?
Hey, is there any questions for Gary? All right, thanks, Gary.
Yep, you bet. Have a good day.
Okay, number 9, Information Technology Department, Mike.
Good morning. We finished replacing and upgrading the video system at Highway. So they got some new cameras now, and it's a little easier for them to navigate around and look at historical footage. Let's see, where else? Oh, the AV for this building is now basically complete. We're using the new audio system here. Same in the courtrooms, although there's still some minor changes that they've requested since the implementation to make things a little easier to work. And the small courtroom will get an upgrade also. We were scheduled for this month, but it looks like we got to push it off till next month. So
Okay,
that's it.
all right, any questions for Mike?
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Mike. Number 10, Human Resources Report.
Good morning. You have my report up there. The only thing I'll add is yesterday we made arrangements with our insurance company to have our handbook sent in and reviewed by them, just to be sure that all of our policies are compliant and make sure we're not missing any policies. So we'll be working on that. Of course, we'll wait till any policy changes that might be coming down the pipe get approved before we send it in.
Okay. Any questions for Rose? Thank you for your report, Rose. Okay, number 11, County Clerk, Lynn.
You can see we're starting over with a new activity chart on our licensing at the counter. Our activity is high in dog licenses due to the number of municipalities who have chosen this year not to do their licenses at their site, mainly because of new staffing. So that activity has increased for us. And of course, marriage licenses are still down yet because they're not coming in the winter. As far as elections go, we're in the process of getting our ballots approved, or they're at the queue now to be printed in draft mode, sent to us, and we can send them off to the Elections Commission for approval for April. It's going to be a long ballot. There's a lot of things happening on there with several referendums, both locally and at the state level. So expect that to be a long one if anyone gets it in absentee ballot form. I did complete my interview over the phone with Homeland Security about election security processes. That took about an hour on February 15th a week ago. And now next week, he is coming to Hayward to do walkthroughs through the county and through several municipalities who agreed to do the same. And I've invited Tim Hagberg to join us because he's going to be asking questions about areas that I have no clue. The amount of questions that he asked was extremely long, and I watched him take notes on everything as far as lighting, parking lots, et cetera. So they really go through the whole gamut when they do this interview process. At the town level, turnover continues for municipal clerks and treasurers. I'm still the temporary appointed election clerk for both villages of Coudray and Radisson. Although I did hear the village of Radisson has hired someone, but they won't be ready to do the absentee process for the April election. I have advised them that I cannot go to their sites on election day, so they have to have all poll workers completely trained for that. And in general, we've completed our year-end state reports for the dog licensing and marriage licensees. They have been submitted, and I'm in the process of finalizing plans for the June conference. The WCCA Clerk Conference is coming to Hayward this year since I volunteered to host it. I think when it's all said and done, we'll have about a $30,000 impact in revenue for the county after that conference is over. And I'll give more details as it gets closer. Any questions?
Any questions for Lynn?
How much do we charge the village of Coudray and Radisson for your services?
It's not a lot, especially for Coudray. Right now, they don't have a single absentee on the book, and I charge by voter to take care of each of those steps. So it's not going to be a huge impact to them since it's not a lot of activity.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions for Lynn? All right, number B, public records request report.
Yep, you can see the report in there. It's starting over again, of course, for the year. So last month, we had a total of 14 requests, non-sheriff department related, 23 requests just for the sheriff's department for that month, in total hours of about 10, 11 hours between the two entities as far as staff time in working through those things. Right now, we have not had one this year that has required an attorney to get involved that I know of. So that's good. And there's your charts or the counts of how the applications are coming in. Any questions on that one?
No, you have any questions? All right, thank you, Lynn. All right, number 12, elected official wage review, discussion and possible action item. We heard this in finance. Anybody got any questions? Finance committee's here. So.
Mr. Chair, I added it to the admin committee because when I was looking back for the resolution, I found that the last time around, the admin committee was the one that actually submitted it to the board. So I put it on for this one. Just for the record, putting up on the screen the resolution. And hang on.
Did we fill the blanks yet?
Yep, I filled in the blanks, most of them anyway. So what the Finance Committee approved was the resolution with these numbers in there. So the So the 2025 would be 67,863, increasing to 69,220, 70,605, and 72,017. And then you can see the fiscal impact there. It's a significant jump in the first year, and then a smaller incremental increase the subsequent 3 years.
Okay, and you need a motion to come out of this committee also.
Yeah, I think it's a joint resolution.
Okay,
If that's good with you.
yep, I'll make that motion to approve the elected officials wage review that was okayed by the finance committee. We have a second. Okay, we have a second by Mr. Schleter to approve. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries to approve.
So glad we can reach out in the future.
Yeah.
It's,
Okay, number 13. Out of county vehicle policy, discussion and possible action.
Can I start that one too?
Yes, you go right ahead.
All right. So where we're at as of the moment is a month or two ago, the Public Safety Committee had made a motion to recommend that deputies be allowed, or ask that deputies be allowed to take their squads home if they outside the county, which currently is not allowed under policy. At the Finance Committee a little while ago, the motion was to approve deputies to take their car home that live within 25 miles of the county. What I think I've given everybody a copy of, and I guess I'll share it as well, is a resolution that would be helpful if we'd work off of that for, hang on. Because we need to essentially amend personnel policies to limit. Hang on. I want to put it up on the screen. So the resolution I'm putting up on the screen that you have a copy of summarizes how we got to this point, the current policies, and then it has some suggested amendments to our policy manual to accomplish the goal of allowing deputies who live outside the county to be able to take their squad home with them. So I'm just highlighting under section 1 residency requirement, we would remove the language that, however, if an employee does not reside within the county boundaries, the county squad car must remain within the county boundaries. That would be stricken. But we would add in just a clarification that it's measured 25 miles by road. And then under section 4 of the manual, facilities, equipment, and vehicles, under use of county vehicles, I have a highlighted section there of language I added in. Now, based on the motions from the Public Safety and Finance Committee, to try to keep it consistent, I would suggest striking what I have in here, lines, the sentence that starts in line 57, that talks about 15 miles and taxing under the IRS, and then potentially charging beyond 15 miles. That was not included in the Finance Committee motion. So I would strike those lines out of the resolution that's drafted, as well as lines 61 through 65 of the budget amendment, because that was not included at the Finance Committee motion either. So this would achieve the personnel policy manual changes that are overseen by the admin committee. Just to have something to go to the county board that
Okay,
would accomplish that.
so when I was in finance committee, I'm just gonna throw this out there. I only, on a motion, I only heard 2 votes. I didn't hear the other 3.
You want me to give you the
Somebody
Robert,
answer
I'm gonna
that.
give you the Robert's Rules interpretation?
Yeah,
It's the chair's discretion. If he believes the majority of the committee voted in favor, he called it as a vote in favor. It was not a divided vote where it was, there was no division,
okay. Yeah, all right, that's fine.
the other side, when we asked opposed, there was no opposed.
Right, yeah, okay. All right. So everybody knows my feelings on this out of county vehicle policy. When I was come to public safety, it went through there 5-0. I've always been in favor of having the out-of-county deputies do a mileage from the county line to their residence. And if they don't want to do the mileage, then leave the car at the county line. So, and I've talked to the deputies that they come in and they were not against being charged mileage. So my recommendation is I make a motion to approve the out-of-county vehicles for the deputies and that they pay mileage to reimburse the county for taking them home. Anybody want to second that? Sure, you can.
I don't know if that raised hand wants to pipe in.
If it's Tweed, probably. Tweed, are you on there? I don't know.
*6 tweet if you
Hello?
want to unmute.
Hello? Yes, I'll second that motion. I've been trying to talk here for 5 minutes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to have the out-of-county deputies take their squads home with them being, placing mileage to reimburse the county for that privilege. Any more discussion? Go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to put the sheriff on the spot again. Where are you on this motion?
That's where you as legislators get to make that choice. I support what you decide. I mean, you set my budget, we propose it, you set it. You know, if they don't have to pay, you know, just keep us in mind and give us the extra money so that we can afford to move forward with them on the county's expense. So either way, it doesn't matter to me.
Will this motion have any effect positively or negatively upon your hiring new help or keeping old help?
I mean, it could potentially be an issue of recruiting more people if they don't have to pay. You know, that's speculation. I can't speak. I spoke last time about retention and then one left anyway, so I'm a little hesitant on saying much or predicting. I want to be transparent and honest with the board.
So let me ask this question. How do we ever get to this 15-mile point? How do we get from
Well, the-
25, from Ron's
15,
position
the
to this?
15 mile, I think, is the comparables to the other counties, and that's where the 15 mile come in originally. We had already, Sawyer County has had that extended to 25 mile outside by residency. So I think that's where the difference of the 25 and 15 come in, comparable to other counties versus what we did on the residency.
Okay, if we would approve the motion made by Mr. Buckholz, would you lose any employees, do you think?
I hope not.
Okay.
We don't,
Chairman, I got a comment.
go ahead, Mr. Schuman.
Thank you, sir. Andy, would either way we do this, would this be considered a budget amendment and require a supermajority vote at the county board level?
Only if the budget amendment language is included in the motion, that we're going to amend the budget to provide the funds to the departments that would have the additional cost in 2024.
Andy, these funds are not in the budget now.
Correct. They're not budgeted within the department budgets.
Right. So do you think by the patrolmen paying their own mileage outside the county, is that going to bring it budget neutral, would you say? Or would it still be an expense to the county?
It depends on what rate is charged.
Well, we probably could not charge greater than the federal rate, right? That's been recently approved.
You could charge whatever you want. I mean, I think the discussion when it's come up has been the federal mileage rate. I believe when we do our calculations for the sheriff's department, because their squads have a higher cost with the way they're outfitted with the equipment, I believe the mileage, if you calculate in the depreciation and the higher turnover cost, it's probably a little higher than that, but I mean, frankly, the 67 cents federal is going to be it's going to be close to a break even or potentially even cover it. If you calculated the full
Yeah.
mileage at the federal mileage rate, it will go very close to covering the additional expense.
Yeah, that's what I had thought, and I'm glad I heard that from you. So by them paying this mileage, could be much closer to budget neutral then.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
Andy, how much will it cost us to allow the officers to take their vehicles?
Right here.
Yeah, that's the,
43,000.
yeah.
I know we had it somewhere, I forget.
Yeah, the finance director put together the estimates. On an annual basis, the operating cost would be $67.30 based on the 5 deputies currently that live outside the county. The total cost is $23,855. But that's operating costs or the actual like gas, oil changes, the additional mileage in here. The 17,125 is the per year cost of the additional squad. The additional miles that are put on, if we stay on the current schedule for when we turn cars over, would be an additional squad every 4th year. So that 17,000 is not something we'd incur in the 24 budget, but it'll accumulate to add an additional squad every 4th year with 68,500 is what we estimate for a new squad. So it spreads that over the 4 years. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Hassel, you got something you want to say?
So I just would like Andy to reiterate what was discussed at finance. I sat in at finance. This was not the discussion brought forth at finance. I feel at this point, we're being counterproductive. Finance said, yes, we can afford it. Yes, we approve to bring to the full board. This is just a policy action at administration. It should not be a finance conversation. It should be a policy conversation. So I just would applaud the efforts being made so far, but I don't want us to take a step back in what we just decided an hour ago at finance.
I understand that, and I do not want to see any more of the deputies that we have leave Sawyer County. I mean, if paying mileage to take that vehicle home is that big of a burden to them, then, well, I guess I don't know how I would answer that, but I'm not against them taking it home. I'm for that.
Sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Schuman.
Thank you, Chairman. Andy, so what was passed at finance, that they can take these vehicles home and the county would incur these extra charges, and that would be a budget amendment vote, correct?
Not the way the motion was made. There was no inclusion of amending the budget to move funds from the general fund to the, or moving funds into their operational budgets to cover that expense. The way the motion read, it was to approve, allow the deputies to take the vehicles home within 25 miles of the county, consistent with the residency requirement. There was no stipulation on how to pay for the cost. So if it were to be approved at the board that way, the departments would incur the additional operational costs, and either they would stay within budget or they would go over budget. There's no.
Well, Doug told us earlier that his department cannot afford this increase in his budget. Unless there's some other department that would pay this.
Right. So that's why to do a budget amendment, there needs to be a motion to amend the budget.
And that has to come out of here. It should come out of county board, right?
It could be done at the board meeting. You could do it here. It's really not the admin committee's jurisdiction. I'm already in my head, if you have the motions from the Public Safety and Admin, or excuse me, Public Safety and Finance Committee are pretty much consistent. If this committee were to make a different motion and send it to the county board, I think we'd almost have to have both of those presented at the board and then have the board take it from there to decide on the floor what to do. I'm not coming up with a better solution right now.
Chair,
Go ahead.
I know that I'm not on this committee and I applaud when you give your opinions, but I do think that we have to look at facts and we have to let the full board decide based on the recommendations from the other two. So I would encourage you to just take the recommendations from the other two committees, not try to add your opinions as them paying it, but let the full board decide that at discussion next week when we get there, without your opinions being made by adding the payment. If that's what they decide that they want to do next week, great, but I don't think that that should be the motion coming out of this facility.
Thank you, Ms. Hessel.
Excuse me, Chairman, admin, this is on the admin agenda. We can make a motion, which there is on the floor already. This is, the motion we send to the county board will be considered along with the other two committees. And I think it's going to be up to Mike and Andy whether this is a budget amendment or not and require that vote.
Yeah, Mr. Schuman, but I'm looking at this and sitting on, like I say, public safety, that went through that committee 5-0. It went through finance 5-0. And if the finance is okay with this, I would like to rescind my motion. Possible with that?
Second.
Agreed?
Yeah. Well, yes, sir, you can do whatever you please. But I think the big question here is whether we can do it within the budget or not. That's what we got to decide. And are we amending the budget to do this? I think that's the biggest question.
Well, my thought is, after I hear all this, it more and more and more. Are you okay with me rescinding my motion? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, sure. Yes. I'm not going to tell you what to do, sir.
Okay. So what's the next step, Andy?
The next step is I'll make a motion to approve the out-of-county squad vehicles up to 25 miles, the same as it was in finance. That way it's consistent.
Okay. I'll second that motion. Any more discussion? Lynn, I'd like to do a roll call on that, please.
Okay. Mr. Schuman,
No.
Mr. Buckholz,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy, Mr. Kinsley,
Yes.
Mr. Schleter. Motion passes 4-1.
Okay. And that goes on to the county board.
Yes.
All right. Number 14, county administrators report. Andy?
I'll start with the PTO proposal that's on the agenda. I'm sorry. Start the PTO proposal that's been carried over on the agenda.
Andy, do you want me to share it or are you sharing?
You can share it. I just actually need to get to it myself so I can. So I have not, to this point, made any changes to the proposal that you've seen. We did, tried to meet with employees or departments that have asked to answer any questions and to clarify any issues that are coming up. I have one employee that did ask to meet that I've not had a chance to meet with. Otherwise, I've been in contact with all the departments. I have a somewhat of a rundown of which departments have essentially said they're good with it and which ones have are not in favor or have a split with their employees. But I did want to address just one component of the PTO proposal. In the version that's been out since the December 10th, we had talked about the current sick leave. So employees right now have a sick leave bank that they've built or they accrue time in a day a month. After the first year of PTO, the proposal was to not allow, I mean, the first year they would have free access to use their sick leave bank for sick time as they have been. After the first year, we wanted to limit it to FMLA qualifying events. So generally those are going to be longer term, using multiple days. They intend to be out on a, like a 3-day minimum or something that is intermittent that's for the same health issue. And really the reason for that was just to start streamlining the claiming of time so that we don't have people pulling sick time out of PTO or pulling time out of PTO and pulling time out of the sick leave bank. Now, that's caused some concern. I think employees felt that they were restricted or that they were going to lose that time, and that certainly wasn't the case. But in looking at the reality of administering that going forward, my proposal is to amend the proposal, and they'll be able to use their sick leave bank indefinitely. Going beyond the first year, as long as they have time that they still have remaining in their sick leave bank, they wouldn't accrue any time because it'd all be PTO accrual. They would just be able to use their sick leave going ahead. And part of that, in looking closer at the numbers of the employees impacted by this proposal, over half of them have less than 2 weeks worth of time in their sick bank. So, and probably 2/3 have less than 3 weeks. So they're gonna, if they use sick time as they have been, those banks are gonna be emptied out within the first few years. There will be other employees who have the max amount in that time and they'll never probably use it, and they'll take a payout of it just like they were planning on. But from administration standpoint, that's not going to be as big a headache as I anticipated of having to have people using time out of multiple banks. So that would be just the only change at this time. I'm amending the proposal is to have the sick leave banks remain in use indefinitely into the future along with PTO. The major objection from those that are objecting to the conversion is that the loss of time, that they're getting less overall days under the PTO accrual than what they were getting with vacation sick. And I'll just reiterate that they're getting less days, but they're getting more days with unrestricted ability to use it. In talking with them, I've explained the reasoning behind that, why when you convert from vacation sick to PTO, that there is generally a reduction in some days, because while there is individuals that might feel the reduction, overall, we're going to expect that employees are going to be taking more time off countywide. The amount of days off will increase because people won't have to be restricted to be sick to use the day off like they are with 12 other days now. They'll be able to get 8 days more of use at their discretion. The suggestion that we could just convert all the current vacation and sick leave accruals to PTO is one that's been made. And I think if that would be done, then all the employees probably wouldn't have any problem with PTO. The problem to the county, though, is that if we do that, we'll probably see a 25, and I really need to ballpark the number here, but we'll probably see a 25% increase in overall time off. People will be able to use more time. Then they'll have more time accessible to them, so they'll be able to use more time since it's unqualified, it's unrestricted to being sick. So then we potentially, that there's more of a cost to the county to have employees taking more time off and not performing their work duties. That's why I did not propose that to begin with, and that's still where I would be on the downside of just converting everything over from vacation sick accrual rates to a PTO rate.
Okay. Anybody got any questions for Andy on this? Go ahead, Mr. Duffy.
Yeah, Andy, I think I don't get many phone calls, but I bet I've had 3 or 4 or 5 phone calls from employees, all negatively. And one really loud spokesman is Joe Bodo, who says most of the employees don't like this problem, this change. And I guess if there's a problem with employee morale or we have problems keeping employees, why do we try to change it if substantial number don't want it?
I don't know that there is a substantial number that don't want it. I mean, I get more phone calls now from people that are wondering why it hasn't gone through yet. And I'm not saying that there is people not in favor of it, but at this point, I would put that at the minority versus the majority.
But if we don't know, shouldn't we find out? I mean, I guess that's the big thing. If there's a substantial number, that's one thing. If there isn't, that's something else.
Yeah, I mean, I've not put it to a vote and I would not put it to a vote because anytime we change a benefit, we're going to put it to a vote. I mean, anytime that we have to increase the health insurance rates or we're going to adjust the HSA contribution, I mean, you would not put employee benefits to a vote to see how many we have in favor or how many we have opposed to it. I mean, I'm comfortable that I've gone to the departments and I'd say I've got 4 departments, maybe 5 that have negative, like either a majority or at least a 50-50 split on employees that are in favor of it versus not in favor of it. The rest of the departments have all given me a thumbs up that they're good to go with it.
Should we go forward?
That's why I don't think it's a 50-50 split. I'd say 80, and this is, people will contest this, I'd say 80 either in favor or indifferent and 20 opposed.
Mr. Schleter.
A couple questions. The people that were opposed, can you hear me?
Yes.
The people that were opposed to this that you've sat down and talked with, have most of them changed their minds or some of them still oppose this?
Of the ones I've talked to most recently, I'd say the ones that I've talked to most recently are opposed, and I would say very small portion of them have changed their mind. Or if they've changed their mind, it's not as if they're, I would say, 100% in favor. They maybe have become indifferent or they see the balance, but I'd say that's why I think it's a minority of the ones I've heard from that are opposed are of pretty they're still opposed. But I don't feel that that's a majority or anywhere near a majority of the employees.
Okay, and in the last full board meeting, or in the one before, we learned that percentage of employees in favor of this was at 60%, and then it rose a little by the last board meeting. Now we're up to what, an estimated 80% in favor of it? What are we talking anymore about? It's good for the county. It's good for 80% and better. I'm in favor of passing this, getting it done.
Mr. Kinley.
Thank you. I've also received a lot of phone calls and emails. And some of the comments is you constantly take things away from us. We have problems getting employees in here to fill our positions. And I guess I'd like to make a motion that we approve the PTO time to equal the vacation and sick time. So I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Could you repeat that?
The motion is to make the PTO time equal to vacation and sick time.
Yeah, I'll say it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Kinsley and a second by Mr. Duffy to approve the PTO. Say that again, Ron.
To approve the PTO time equal to the vacation and sick time.
And sick time. Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? Yes.
So in the current proposal, we have the two, what we were calling wellness days. So there was essentially, I think it's equivalent of having 8 days of the sick time was converting to PTO unregulated plus the 2 days of wellness. So there was a net of 2 days reduced. Understand? So do you want including the wellness days to equal, or is it PTO? Because PTO was 8 days, wellness was 2, or do you want the 2 wellness days we've identified to be part of that calculation?
So to clarify, the PTO time would equal the vacation and sick time, so be adding the 4 days in. There's 2 days that were short, and then there was 2 days for other items.
For the wellness.
Wellness.
So do you want the 4 days all PTO and the 2 wellness days eliminated? Okay.
You get that, Lynn?
No. Please repeat the change.
There is no change. Mr. Alvarado was asking, there was 2 wellness days in there. I understood it was 2 wellness days and then 2 days short of equaling. So I guess another way to look at it is I'm asking for 4 days of the PTO would equal the vacation sick time.
So no change in the motion.
Right.
Okay, got it.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve. Mr. Slater?
Yeah, does that, if, I don't know if I'm understanding this right or not, but if they're going to be equal to PTO, why do we need any distinctions at all? Why wouldn't they all be called PTO days? No vacations, it's all PTO. No vacation, no illness, it's just everything is PTO. If it's going to be equal to.
Should be.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I understand your question right, why are we changing it at all?
No, well, if you're going to make them equal, if you're going to make sick leave and vacation equal to PTO, why do you need the 3 distinctions?
Okay. I think I understand. You're asking, the distinctions were pointed out in PTO, okay? Mr. Alvarado did a good job of putting things together, and he's pointing out a total of 4 days different, 2 days wellness or community service, and 2 days, lack of a better term, subtracted. But he wanted it subtracted because they're offering PTO, you don't have to say why I'm gonna be gone, I'm just gonna be gone. Okay? That's the way I understand it anyway. So then 4 days are added into this PTO. Does that make sense?
So if I'm a new employee, how many PTO days do I have my first year?
You would have the first day you came to work that you'd receive for vacation and sick together.
Our first year employees right now can accrue up to 24 days. Excuse me. Yeah, 24 days, 12 days of vacation, 12 days of sick in their first year. So they would, based on the motion, they would accrue up to 24 days of PTO. Is that your?
Okay, but I thought one of the reasons for going to PTO was that you didn't have to have these awkward conversations and question, are you really sick, or are you just taking time off, or I'm going to require you to bring me a doctor's note that you're really sick. That was supposed to be one of the benefits of that those conversations wouldn't have to take place. But now you want them to take place?
No, you don't have to. It's PTO. You don't have to tell me you're sick. You don't have to tell me my dog is sick. don't have to tell me I'm going fishing today. I'm taking that day off. That's it.
Okay, well then if you have hypothetically 20 vacation days and 20 sick days, you have 40 PTO days.
If that was the case, but there isn't the balance of 2020. It's probably more,
Depending upon how you use them, there could be.
okay.
Okay, if you got 26 of one and 14 of the other, now you've got 30 PTO days.
The sick days stay the same for all employees, regardless of how long they've been here. Right now, they get 12 days of sick leave every year. They can accrue up to 12 days of sick leave every year. So the only number with Mr. Kinsley's motion, so first year it'd be 24 days of PTO because that's based on 12 and 12. After 8 years here, it's 17 days of vacation, 12 days of sick leave. So the conversion rate would come up with would be 29 days of PTO at the 8-year mark. After 25 years here, it's 25 days of vacation and 12 days of sick. So we'll come up with the rate for those employees that gets them to 37 days of PTO in a year.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
It's a roll call vote. That's what you asked for before.
Yeah, then let's do a roll call vote.
Okay. Mr. Kinsley,
Yes.
Mr. Duffy,
Yeah.
Mr. Buckholz.
Yes.
Mr. Schumann. Mr. Schleter. 4-0 with one absent.
Absent, I guess.
No.
You must have left.
All right,
So it goes to the full.
goes to the full board, yep. All right, number 15, closed session, grievance, closed session pursuant to 19.85, parent 1, parent C, parent E, and parent F, Wisconsin statutes. Update on a personnel matter and a union grievance before the administrative committee and discuss the committee's response the same. Okay, we need a motion to go into closed session. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Duffy and a second by Mr. Kinsley to go into closed session. We are now in closed session. What?
Do you need to take a roll call vote
We do?
for to go into closed session?
Oh, all right. Sorry. Go ahead, Lynn.
Mr. Schumann. Mr. Buckholz.
Yes.
Mr. Duffy, Mr. Kinsley.
Yeah.
And Mr. Schleter.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, number 18, no more business. No, thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.